Some made-up plagiarism software has an accuracy rate of 95%. A student body of 4,000 has everyone use this software. It happens that 40 students plagiarize. Now, note that a positive test shows that a student is plagiarizing, and that's considered failing the test. So if you fail the test, it's positive, you plagiarized. So we are going to create a table to answer questions B and C. Okay, so let's go ahead and think about our table using 4,000 students, 40 of them are big fat cheater faces, and we have a 95% accuracy rate. So, to start, we have 4,000 total. Okay, and we know from the previous page that 40 of them are big fat cheater faces. So to find how many did not plagiarize, right, we will take the 4,000 total and subtract the 40. So 3,960 of them did not plagiarize. I hope that makes sense. Okay, now, how do we figure out the stuff that goes in the middle? Well, remember, a positive test means that you did plagiarize. So if you were a plagiarizer, you would expect to test positive because you cheated. So 95%, so when I'm thinking about this blue check mark box, 95% accuracy rate. So that means 95% of my 40 cheaters will test positive. So 0.95 times 40 gives me 38. Well, if I had 40 total plagiarizers and 38 of them failed the test, right, they tested positive, that means 2 of them are going to sneak by, right? I hope that makes sense. Okay, now let's go for my did not plagiarize. If you did not plagiarize, you would expect to test negative, right, because you didn't cheat. So, in my orange box, 95% of my 3,960 students would expect to test negative because we have a 95% accuracy rate. So 0.95 times 3,960 gives me 3,762. Well, if I had 3,960 who did not cheat and 3,762 of them tested negative, that means 198 of them tested positive. And we add, right? We simply add up and down to find out that 236 students will test positive, meaning they show that they failed the test and that they plagiarized. And 3,764 students will test negative, assuming they did not plagiarize. Now, this is the table that we are going to use to answer the rest of our questions. So I'm going to get rid of my numbers on the outside, and I might flip back and forth. I hope you don't get seasick. Okay, so let's look at question B. If someone passes the plagiarism test, so that means, right, passes means that they tested negative. What is the probability they did not plagiarize? Okay, so we're looking at did not plagiarize over tested negative. That's what we're looking for. All the people who tested negative, how many of them didn't plagiarize? So when I go back to my previous page, I'm looking at this column. They tested negative. If the student tested negative, so I'm going to use my 3,764 as my bottom number. How many of them did not plagiarize? Well, 3,762. So I end up with a fraction of 3,762 did not plagiarize out of the 3,764 of them who tested negative, right? They passed. So we have a 0.999 probability, right, or 99.9% chance that if somebody tested negative, that they really didn't plagiarize. Now, the last one, what if someone failed the plagiarism test? So if you fail it, you're a big fat cheater face. What's the probability that the student actually did not plagiarize? Okay? Hold on. Time out. We got to type. I want to know did plagiarize. I don't know why I put not in there. Sorry about that. So if you failed the plagiarism test, that means that they're calling you a plagiarizer, a cheater. What's the probability that you actually are a cheater? So we are looking for the plagiarizers over tested positive. Because if you failed the plagiarism test, right, that means you tested positive for cheating. So let's go back to the table. We're looking at the positive column now. 38 of them plagiarized out of 236 total positive testers. So there's my fraction. 38 plagiarizers over 236 positive testers for a probability of 0.161. So really, if somebody fails the plagiarism test, which means, hey, you cheated, there's really only a 16% chance that they actually cheated. That's a lot of leeway there, right? And that's simply because we had more students who didn't plagiarize, and they because of the false positives, that's why we have a little bit of problem there. So remember that a false positive is here, right? A person tested positive for cheating when they actually didn't do it, and this would be considered a false negative. They tested negative when actually they're big fat cheater face. So just keep those terms in mind as you work through these problems.